All right, this is Nephew SIG Release Meeting for March. What's today? 27th, 2023. So first things first, we are presumably
You got muted when you presented the screen. Yeah, you need to.
Yeah, gotta do the share tab audio, unclick it. This is such a weird default. Why would tab have audio? I guess you're showing the if a presentation mode, you have a video embedded, you'll be showing that. But anyway, so as a SIG, we are supposed to do this week. The first thing is, what are the repositories? Do we know? I know last week for SIG2, we talked about moving back to having more of a master repo instead of a component repo.
Well, so I went through all the repos. Let me, I think it's issue number 10 in the SIG release repo. And I just went, I think I did this on Friday. I just went through the whole list of all the repos that exist. And so we need to discuss and figure out what the right structure is. There were some open questions there. So yeah, I mean, so theoretically this work, you can see that it's for tomorrow, which is obviously very aggressive. But you know, we have some space to work and we won't be completely helped. But
yeah, so
we want to start the sprint tomorrow. So we want to have a place for people to actually start doing work.
So what are needed? I guess because we never ask. I guess.
Oh, can you
So
go to
issue number 10. I guess we'll be looking at that.
Yeah, you probably need to display a different tab. But
I pinged the issue in the chat, so please feel free to use that link.
The API controllers, IPAM, and FreeFlyGC.
Well, no, that scroll down. That's what we originally created like a month ago, but I think that it's. I did.
Oh wow, that is a lot. Oh, you archived most of those already.
Archived a few. The ones checked are ones that I think we don't really have to talk about, but other people should read them and make sure they agree with me, as is my opinion. The ones that are unchecked, I think there are open questions about. So what I'm proposing, I can talk through it. We already created the API one. I think we're all set there.
Okay.
Common lib already exists, but I wasn't clear whether that should be part of like project Nefio / PKG, just a PKG directory in the Nefio repo or not. So that's open for discussion.
Oh, okay. Well, we can do that. That's fine too. I mean, we have to change the seed code to get to a new path, but yeah.
Well,
do we have a PKG already?
These are all just suggestions, right? Like I want to. Anyway, let's go through it quickly and then comment. I mean, if we can make decisions here, great. Yeah. So if you're happy with that, I think that might be better.
I think we should be, and we have 11 people,
okay.
So we should be able to make a decision now.
Docs, I think, can stay as it is. That's the outward-facing documents as well as document system.
Yeah, none of this needs unit tests at this point, so we should just go ahead and check stuff in.
By the way, one thing, John, the design document. So the first thing that I'm working on right now is the design docs for the respective. I focus on the functions, if you will.
Okay.
Where should we put those as part of the functions?
So if it's the design, this is a great question. I don't know. So the design documents in general probably belong in whatever we probably need. Like
you're supposed to co-alpha, yeah.
What's that?
But by the time we bind that this is a feature for a release, the design document should probably go under, should go under, could go under docs, but then would be docs/a release directory.
Well, the docs there is supposed to be for outward facing things. So that's
Oh,
like
okay, so that's what you want it to be.
end user documents, and then like documents for vendors on how to integrate. But for our internal development and design type of documents, I was just thinking in the Nefio directory itself, the Nefio, or if it's like, if those functions, well, so, okay. So when you were asking about functions in particular, so I was suggesting, if you go down almost to the bottom of the screen, that the bulk of the code live, not, I'm sorry, I meant, if you look, what was showing at the bottom of the screen is now up higher. It's up near the top of the screen. Just don't scroll. Right there says Nefio/Nefio. So what I was suggesting is that we would just create directories in here: PKG, controllers, KRM functions, specializers. So we would create maybe a design directory and put all of our designs in there, or it would go. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, I guess. Or maybe all the things I showed there are under like a Go directory. I don't know. Like I'm open to suggestions, but
no, but I will stick to something. But my proposal was also is at the moment I'm going to create a directory for each of the functions with the name, and then put the design document there besides the README. So the README goes there, and then we can always move the design document or create a link to the design document, because the design document is probably more detailed than the outward facing docs, I'm assuming.
Okay, so then I would think that under KRM functions there, you would have, yeah, directory per function and named after the function, so that when we, the Docker file, all that would go in there. And the design, there'd be a README, I guess, which is about how to use it. And then there'd be a design.md or something that explains more details. That makes sense to me.
Do you have a question, Alvin? Oh, comment.
No, I was just thinking like this discussion is good, right? Like we have design docs there, but we were also thinking initially in the release process that we will have an enhancements repository where we will probably file issues for enhancements, but these probably don't fall in enhancements. We are bootstrapping the process, right? So maybe for now this is okay, but probably in the long run, like we have to do something like an enhancement repo for feature requests and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's still separate, I think, right? So here, yeah, that's when we have to deal, because today we don't really work with enhancements requests. We just go for it.
Everything is enhancement.
Everything is an enhancement now.
Exactly. For now it's okay, but I'm just thinking like forward looking, we probably need to come up with the process.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know that's kind of model after the way Kubernetes does it. There's a repo that's for like feature design, and Kubernetes went through a few iterations before landing on that, and that seems to work pretty well. But it's a more mature project, so
exactly. I'm not suggesting we have to do it now. Just a thought that maybe that's what we follow going forward after R1 maybe.
Okay. Oh, Vish, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just want to second that. Where somebody has established a good practice, I think it's good for us to follow, so that the community members feel more comfortable contributing and they're able to find this information. I mean, there's no point. It's not about just reaching the end goal, right? How we reach it is also important in some cases.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So yeah. Creating this, so some of these things under Nefio, we need to hook it up with Prow. Actually, all of them too, because you want owner files, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
So one thing. So I like the simplicity of what's being Nefio project / Nefio, right? Package controllers, KRM functions, specializers. And then I believe there'll be separate one for IPAM, and I see the separate one for the Watcher as well. So one thing I'll just ask the question. I don't know. I want to understand if that means this particular repo is going to be very busy because there's a lot of PRs going against it. That means there'll be a lot of builds as well. That is going in parallel for the same repo. So what is so when we do a PR, when we do the, let's say build and run the unit tests and possibly integration tests as well. So would they run that specific directory, or would it run for everything in the repo? And what is the load on that? So that is one thing we want to. I wanted to
That sounds like a
understand.
question for Arwen. Is it possible to just run builds on pre-submit on only a repo?
Sorry, I mean, I'm thinking, right? Like that. Let's say we have. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. If you have an FEO repo where all the code lives, then there could be different directories under it. Like let's say,
Yes.
there is I don't know what all we are putting there. Is there
Package controllers, all the KRM functions,
Everything
all the
basically,
specializers.
almost.
Okay, so I mean, I'm guessing each folder there, let's say there is a KRM function folder, and maybe there could be a .prow.yaml file where we write prow jobs there, right? And there could be a different folder where we write a different set of prow jobs, and that is focused on that directory. I think that should be doable, but I haven't personally tried it, putting across different files, but I don't think why not. Rado is also here, who's going to lead the prow effort. So Rado, if you have any comments, please chime in as well.
Yeah, I think the .prow file is only one per repo. You can exclude directories or files based on a pattern, but this, I guess, would be much more complicated to do than to have these components in separate repos and rebuild them once the pull requests are made against them. So I'm not 100% sure. I have to check it, but I'm like 90% sure that profile is per repo.
Yeah, I asked that question. Thanks, Tado and Arvind, because the load considerations and the efficiency of per build job may go really up if everything has to be run for every single PR in every one of these directories.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that if you look at Kubernetes, like it's a huge repo and it has a whole bunch of pre-submits and stuff, and obviously they spend a lot of money on CI. There's overhead though with having separate repos too. So I don't know, it's a little bit of a balancing act. I did leave in this proposal things that were like Watcher Agent and Edge Watcher that are sort of clearly independent things. Like I'm imagining part of the reason there's going to be a set of controllers that we bundle into a single binary, a single controller manager. Like we're not going to run we're not going to run separate binaries for every single controller. I don't know how many we actually have, but like the specializers, we can probably bundle into a single binary. The KRM functions are probably the thing that's most possibly easily separated out. Maybe we separate that into its own repo rather than embedding in the same one. Package is, common library type stuff. So any changes to that should run a bunch of CI, although actually it probably should run. See, when you separate them out into separate repos, now you're like, okay, the dependency between this repo and this repo is on a specific version. And so then we have to maintain that in our Go mod file. It's kind of a pain. So
one thing we could do is, John, if I may suggest, we could start like this, where it is very simple, and we all know R1 code base will not be huge, and the penalty, we will not be paying so much. We can start with this structure, and we can refactor as the need arises.
Yeah, that makes sense. KRM functions would be easy to move out, right? Because they're just totally independent little programs. In fact, it's already out, so maybe we just leave it out. I just was trying.
They will have library dependency with the CRDs, huh?
Yeah, which is the API repo. But they might also have, might they not also have, I don't know, dependencies with the PKG. I don't know.
But these are all management cluster stuff, right? You don't expect FreeFive.gc to go into that, right?
Correct. That's completely separate. There's a FreeFive.gc. It's up a little higher, one click up.
Where's
Free
that?
5GC. I was suggesting that maybe we stick everything free 5GC except maybe packages. So I don't know, like free 5GC, all the code, which includes controllers, any functions. But again, it's the same question, right? Like how many different repos do we want to create? But definitely I saw free 5GC. And then I was thinking for packages, do we create, right now we have a free 5GC packages, which might be just fine. We could also create a vendor packages and put free 5GC packages in there.
Yeah, that's probably more scalable moving forward instead of. I mean, I don't know how many NF vendors are going to go on board, but then if that becomes a thing, then yeah, then it balloons the number of repos that we have to create if each vendor is going to have their own package. So I think that may make sense. That's a vendor packages. Bala, your hand is still up. Are you still asking a question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Tal.
Hey, yeah, I might be missing something here, but I cannot find where we actually create the free 5GC operator, the repo for it.
Right now it's under POC.
We haven't created it yet, but that's it. Navio project / free 5GC.
Yeah, so that one.
Okay, that repo does not exist, right?
Correct.
Not today, no.
Okay.
So our code today is under POCs.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the things that are unchecked in this list either exist, and I have questions about whether they should exist, or they don't exist yet, and I have questions about whether we should create them, right? So the things that are checked are the ones that, in my opinion, are just fine as they are. But
I see.
like,
Okay.
my opinion.
Just one question on the operators. Do we want to create like a NF operator repository and then all the operators go there, like UPF, SMF?
That would be the same question as what we just raised earlier. So that makes sense. We should do that actually. Let's probably do that.
No, I mean also like free 5GC is like a vendor, right? Like so there are two questions. One, we could create a free 5GC set of operators, or we could say a generic NF operator. Under that, there could be like a free 5GC. And there,
yeah, so again, that was the same thing that we raised about vendor packages versus free 5GC packages. I think the point is great that we should create just a regular NF operators or NF.
Well, let's slow down a second because like, okay, so my thinking has always been that we would provide libraries, maybe some tooling, things like that, and then it would be up to the vendors. You know, maybe we do it now, like we're doing for free 5GC, but ultimately it's up to the vendors to create their own repos, which would potentially be their own operators, which would potentially be proprietary.
Yeah, but then so even in OpenStack we had that thing before. So there are choices where people would like to check into directly into a Neutron repo. And then we refactor it out actually at the end. But then, so it is possible that vendors we may choose to say, oh, this is a Nephew operators. Can I check it into a Nephew repo directly? I mean, that actually is an overarching question. Do we allow this or if we do allow this, do we want that under one single repo, or do we want that to be on every time someone make that request, we make a repo for them specifically?
Right. Yeah, I guess the problem with making, I mean, you can have multiple Go mods. So I don't know that it's just more of our organization structure, I guess, than anything else. So I don't know.
Go ahead, Tal.
Yeah, so I'm thinking we need maybe better naming conventions because maybe quite obviously we can use dashes to kind of specify the type. But I want to point out we have two different kinds of repos, right? We have code repos, well, more than two actually. We have code repos, we have more documentation repos, right, which contain MD, but we also have repos that are designed to be used by kept, right? So those are the ones I think that we add just dash packages in the end, right?
Yes.
Maybe we should write down these conventions very clearly so we know how it works. I'm yeah, sorry, I'm thinking out loud.
No. So there's also, your point is, like, if you look down, I have the Nephew packages, I ask a very similar question, right? Like, I don't even know that's the right approach for a little bit higher up. Like, I don't even know if, like, I have Nepio packages, which I made for the POC, but like, really, we're gonna potentially have a staging and prod, like, do we publish, like, I don't know how we wanna, it's a distribution point as opposed to a
Right.
development place. So we have to figure out, I don't know the right way to do that. I haven't given, so your point's well taken. And then functions are similar, right? Like, do we put functions in their own repo that then we can publish it like a function catalog? And code for the functions. And, yeah.
My thought is maybe that instead of post-fixing the names, we should have a prefix. So it will be very clear, I think. And also just sorting through we're going to have dozens of repositories. Right, so when you search through and kind of look at the list of the repositories, you can see all of them by type kind of together. So maybe,
yeah, makes sense.
So maybe, for example, a prefix doc or documentation dash, right, and then a prefix for catalog dash or some other name, right, for kept repository specifically, or just kept KPT dash, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
Okay. Can you comment on the bugs so we know what repos to create? Oh, go ahead, Vish.
Yeah. So, John, the current functions, kept functions in the function catalog, I think there's about like 10 or so or more. How are they actually? Where are they located? Are they each in its own individual repo, or is it like?
There's a repo that's functions. There's a kept functions repo. So there's two different. Again, there's distribution point and there's like code repository. So there's I don't know how it works. There's a Docker registry, obviously, with kept functions those are built. But I think from the repo point of view, there's just a repo for the function catalog called like kept function catalog or something. And then in it, there's all the different functions. There's a contrib section for like ones that are contributed by others, but not maintained by the kept team. And then there's the ones that are maintained by the kept team. Okay. But again, like, I don't know if that's the best way to do it. That's how they did it for their particular use case. Like, is that right for us? I'm not entirely sure. From a registry, yeah, I think that works. I mean, I think just having a functions, I separated it, I think, right now, I put it under Nepio, and then I put free 5GC specific ones under free 5GC. It's really just up to us how we want to organize our code and how we think we're going to interact with that code. Eventually, okay, functions get built and published to some registry, and
so I see there'll be some functions that will be very generic, and there'll be some functions that will be very specific to certain network functions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there is actually a way, I know Porch, you can register a function repository with Porch, and it will discover functions, and they're available as a CRD, like a CR, the catalog of functions. I haven't actually played with that functionality at all to see how it works, because I haven't needed it. And I don't know if we need it right now. The idea would be that, like, when you're operating on a package in a UI, you want to be able to say, what functions might I want to apply to this package? And it lets you do that. So I think the UI like uses that to discover packages or functions, but I haven't thought through what that means for Nepio, if anything. But again, that's about not about the code repos, that's about the distribution repos. So yeah, Tal, if you've got some opinions, please put them on the ticket. I think that for now, maybe as Bala said, we, on an as-needed basis, maybe we follow whatever plan we come up with in the next day or two, and then we refactor later as we learn through experience.
Yep. Yeah, we can go with something, so we can start the sprint on Thursday. So we probably want to do that.
Tuesday. Tomorrow sprint starts.
Tomorrow, sorry. Tomorrow. Start the sprint
Like
tomorrow.
we can always refactor. Yes, let's start simple.
Yeah.
Unless we know very clearly about something, let's start simple. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
So the second part, the test bed setup probably won't happen, obviously. So prow will be set up, and then hopefully the pre-submit test would be executed accordingly. With prow setup, you should have the owner's files being executed, being honored. Hopefully that happens too. The Docker registry is already in place, as far as I know. It's crappy, but let's go with that.
But like our builds don't, like we don't have a CI and CD set up.
Oh
So
no,
like
yeah,
our
no,
build-
we don't build automatically and dump something into the registry. So you can always do a make Docker build to all your make files to send it
So
there. If you
some
want
of
to
these things that say prep work, they may move into the
make.
sprint.
That sounds more like a CD. Do we do that? Does Kubernetes do that? Running pre-submit and then it automatically creates a Docker image?
Well, you have to, because you have to spin up a cluster and run
Oh, I see.
integration. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So if you're going to run end-to-end tests,
Mhm.
you need to be able to pull from a
Yeah, that's
registry.
true. Yeah.
So
But we probably won't have that for tomorrow.
No.
Because we don't have integration
right now,
tests.
that's why I asked
Yeah.
my question last week. I'm like, this sounds like an awful lot to do before.
Yeah.
Like those should be part of the sprint probably. So I would
Mhm.
ask that. I think Bala was going to work on some of these. Probably Bala, these need to move into the sprint, and we just have to live with it as it is in the rest of the project until they're set up. But yeah, so those should become issues targeted at the sprint.
Ballard being project managers. He's managing all the sprints then, I guess.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll this evening. That's my action item to look at some of the
Mhm.
things, at least for the first sprint for across 6.
Mhm. Yeah, ping all of us to make sure that we're doing our work.
No,
Yeah.
at least set up the board. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see how it goes. I mean,
So my plan for my sub project was to use my sub project meetings as scrums and execution. Like we'll go through it. Maybe they'll end up shortening to half an hour. That would make my life better. But like, just go through them, go through the project board. Once we have the cadence, once we have the execution underway, it'll just be go through the project board.
Mhm.
But Bala was going to offer generously over the weekend to take these and today and move these to, or it was Friday maybe, to move these to into GitHub.
Okay.
So when you do that, Bala, all I'm saying is that like obviously these first ones highlighted here are not realistic to be done by tomorrow. So assign them into the sprint as you see fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Or becomes
Yeah.
backlog or something. Awan had his hand up for a while, so I wonder if he still had any comments or no.
Who? Oh,
Awan did actually for a while. But
No,
then
I
he-
did. I just
he
wanted to
put it
talk.
back.
No, I want to talk about the prow part of it, right? Like I was talking to
Okay.
John the other day as well.
Well, actually, I was going to hand you the platoon after this. Then you can.
Oh
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
talk
Okay, let's
about-
do it then. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Go
Okay, Vish, go ahead.
yeah. I just wanted to latch on to what John's point about saying, he's going to reduce the meeting time to 30 minutes. What I realized is if we set it up for 1 hour, we'll end up using all the 1 hour. If we set up a meeting for 2 hours, we end up losing it. We end up using it too for 2 hours. So having crisp meetings for like 30 minutes, action items, status, and going off would be the best, given that we need to do a lot of work. Just wanted to latch onto that point and see what others think.
Yeah, like my goal, the meetings right now, my sub project meetings I'm talking about.
I know. I just wanted to extend it to everything because whatever time you set up a meeting for, we will end up using it, right? We end up
Yeah.
talking and all the stuff. So trying to be very actionable and having some key highlights and action items, that'll be the best, unless we have some very targeted topics.
Right.
Just saying that it's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
We should
Yeah,
apply
I
it uniformly.
prefer shorter meetings too.
Okay, so without that, go ahead. Awan has the next set of topics. He filed a bunch of issues for SIG release, and then he's going to go over them. Go ahead, Awan. Thanks.
Can you turn off your screen share, Stephen, so he can?
Oh, okay. There you go. And then Awan probably also didn't click that.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, perfect. No, this is just something we wrote down. It's like just a one pager. In terms of like what are the very high level deliverables, which is probably covered in the other doc, but we also wanted to explicitly state like who's the owner for some of these and who are the contributors. And if you don't see contributors, please sign up if you would like to help out. This is how we see it, right? Like Prow CI/CD, there is a good amount of work to be done, and you will see, for example, let me just quickly highlight. So what we did was we kind of went through the bugs. Just a bookkeeping note, right? Like John and I were discussing. So all the SIG release related test infra or otherwise, please file issues against SIG release repository. That's the one place we want to file all the issues. And if it's test infra related, then there is a label for you to tag, right? So you could tag as test infra, for example. Like in this case, it's test infra, but also more specifically, it's Prow, right? Depending on how you want to slice it, you could filter, right? So you will see a whole bunch of Prow tags. So that'll tell you there is a good amount of work to be done in the Prow part of it, right? So that,
Logistically, like, so I have, for the way I was doing it in setting it up for SIG automation, there is the project board. The project board is for R1, and I separated it into different areas. And so it can pull from any repo in the Nephew project. So if you want to use that, it allows you to do like a Kanban style board.
I see. Oh, you're saying you could use test infra also, for example, to file issues and kind of combine?
No. I mean, I would still put them all under SIG release like you're doing. We have basically, I'm trying to minimize the number of places issues show up because then otherwise we could lose track of them. So I have them under Nephew, and I think they're under SIG release,
right,
and under network automation, and that's it. Like, I think those are the only.
Oh, okay. I think what you were saying is in the project board, you can filter based on area so that it will show side by side is what you were saying.
Yeah, so I have set up a view in the project board for my sub project area package management sub project, and it's a board of a backlog and what's in progress and what's done. And obviously, there's only a couple things in there right now, but the idea is when I go to these meetings that I was talking about earlier, we'll execute with that board. There are some handful of issues that fall through the gaps and don't have areas, and I don't know what to do about those yet. But
okay, no, understood. Thank you for that.
So, Arvind, if you don't mind, can I ask a question? So John, are you suggesting that we create a single board for everything? And then,
Arvind, why don't you show the project board? Do you know where that is? Yeah. Yeah, it should be there. I don't know. It says projects 3. Turn off. What the heck?
but not have the.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see, like, if you click on SIG release, or yeah, you see area package manager. So I've got this as a Kanban board, and it's filtered right now by that area. But the issues can come from any Nephew repository. The SIG release right now, if you click on that, right now there's only the one. I don't know why there's only the that's the only one that we've added to this project. But you can go in and add your other anything that's R1 specific would go in. So go to your issue list, or you can do it directly from the board. But right, so the idea is that the boards allow you to select a subset of issues that you want to include in that particular project. So pick one that's for R1, and you've got it set up in the SIG release project now.
Got it. So you're suggesting that put everything under R1 so that there's a pane of glass for everyone to consume?
Specifically required for R1, I wanted to manage it all from that R1 project. The issue would be in more than one project, I think, if you wanted to manage your own, but I don't. It seems excessive to have multiple.
No, I like your idea. So especially after seeing this, so essentially we will not use the SIG release project board. we'll use the R1 board and we will add SIG release issues to that, and that it will show up in the way that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And will there be a label for R1 identification? I think so. Just
So you have to, so the board itself does not automatically, as far as I know, include anything. You have to explicitly add the
Yes.
R1,
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
which you can do. You can bulk edit in the issues tab.
No, I like this because it's one-stop shop, right? We can look at it and it's also categorized very well. So
Yeah.
we can use this.
And you can create as many of these views as you want, right?
Yeah, no, I like it. It's easy.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. We'll do that. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, awesome.
Sounds good. Sorry, going back to, did anybody else have anything? Or if not, I would like to cover this. Okay, so Rado, do you want to talk anything specific? Because so right now, what we have did is sorry, Rado, before I hand off to you. So I've assigned we have assigned a lot of the Proud related stuff to Rado, and clearly, Rado, please reach out for help. So you'll be owning the Proud CI/CD, right? So please reach out for help, and we need to find more volunteers in the Proud part as well. Not sure if there are already. If not, please sign up. Rado, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I've last end of the last week, Friday, I've got all permissions to contribute to the project. It is a bit complicated with, as you probably might know, with big companies. So this morning I filed the first pull request for a PRAW configuration through the pull requests implementation, and after you'll have some time to review it and merge it, we can start contribute to the PRAW configuration and change PRAW configuration through pull requests, so we keep track on what's going on. And for now, splitting into two separate clusters, I've kind of left for later, as this basically requires adding a cluster for build runs, which will be separate configuration. So for now, I want to have like a small subset of functionalities that we need for R1 to basically have everything up and running, and then we can just extend it. So the configuration thing is done. The labels, what else was there? Can you get back to this doc you were showing? Oh, that's right. Yeah. So the CLA stuff is also done. I will push it next. So this will integrate with Easy CLA. Hopefully, everybody that's contributing to the repositories have the CLA thing sorted out. I don't know. It takes a few days probably for some companies, I guess. And the config updater, as I was saying, is done. And pushing to Docker Hub, I have to test it, but I guess this is also good to go. And what else I was working on?
One thing I want to add
That's
is,
probably it.
in terms of roles and responsibilities, right? Like PRAW infrastructure will itself be maintained by SIG3, right? But writing the PRAW job is part of developer workflow, right? Like if you own a repo and let's say you're writing a controller and you're writing a unit test, you need to write the PRAW job for that unit test. I think SIG3, one thing, Rado, that we need to do is probably write a simple instruction or point to already existing PRAW artifacts, right? On how to write a simple PRAW job. But that part should be, whoever is owning the repo, they need to write the PRAW jobs. We just need to write infrastructure and instructions on how to do it, right? So that part, that's one of the deliverables from SIG3 point of view. I think we should do that.
I have to also think about some way of testing the PRAW jobs without actually running them on clusters. So just verify if they are kind of okay to run, regardless what's the result, but it's doing what it's supposed to. But if it just won't create some havoc, so probably like a separate but it would be too much work to push it twice. Yeah, I have to think about it. But yeah, the documentation, I guess, how to make them will be the first step. Yeah, that's a good idea.
But also, please reach out to the group if you need more support. If you feel like there is just too much for R1, then we need to talk about downscoping and also asking for more help. So if there's anyone in the call who's interested in Prow CI/CD, please do sign up as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. So unit test framework, this is mostly Vish's start. Like Vish, would you like to elaborate? I'm not very sure on what is the deliverable here.
So is it okay if I can share my screen for I want to take 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Vish, before that, should we just finish this and then
Yeah.
maybe I'll hand over completely to you, like in less than 5 minutes, I think. Okay, cool. Then let's come back to that then. So end-to-end test bed, here there are two requirements. One is sandboxed, where folks could just try Nefio in their own environment. Another is an end-to-end test bed that kind of integrates with Prow. So this is similar to what we did for one summit, where there were VMs, kind clusters, the networking, all that good stuff, right? So that's this part. Here, I think what we have called out is, the requirements for this should come from SIG2, right? And I think we have filed an issue. John, you were pointing to some diagram, right? But I think it was not rendering, at least. Okay, it's rendering now. Yeah, something like this is what we need, but with more details, right? Like in terms of like what level of networking, because depending on what we ask for, it's more work or less work, right? So we need to be very specific. Maybe this issue is something we could use. John, anything you want to add? Looks like I already see some comments, but I have not looked at it yet.
I put some thoughts there, but it needs, I know others were more deeply involved in that setup and what's happening right now in the one summit setup and how the container labs router and all that are set up. So we just need it documented so that it's clear what the test bed looks like is all, and obviously implemented.
Okay.
Because the one summit does this somehow, right? Already.
Right. What I was asking was here was just kind of let's document what it does today, and if that's sufficient, then we're all set, right? We just need it to work as part of a test infra.
Right. Okay, because I documented some of that in the CRD proposal document. You see the networking environment.
Okay.
That is being created, but
yeah, maybe posting some links here would help. I think Victor is mostly going to drive this. I want to make sure that he has everything, all the requirements clear. If it's already clear, then maybe posting the relevant links is good enough, right? Victor,
I think some things to consider, especially since we are talking about the workshop. Obviously, there are added components here. There's watcher components on both the worker and the management side. And then I think there's a gRPC connection happening. So those are also the requirements now for the test bed, if I understand correctly.
No, that's correct.
So,
yes.
And then also the networking between that obviously that assumes the clusters are talking to each other. They have to be network connection between each other. So that is something new that was not there in the workshop.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't necessarily need a connection. We needed a connection between the management cluster and the repos and the workload clusters and the repos, not between the management cluster and the workload cluster. So we need to make sure that works.
That's where Clap can help, probably, maybe.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's the part that I added after it, but it's not exercised. But it was not there in the meantime.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Victor in the call? I'm not sure.
I think he's still in Korea, so it will probably be.
Yeah, I think we asked him last week. He's still in Korea.
Oh,
this week. He'll come next week. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work with them offline then, just to clarify this part. Okay, cool. The other part is release process itself. So this, I think, mostly we already defined. I mean, we at least discussed this at length in earlier this year, right? But there is one thing that I wanted to clarify is we wanted someone to be like the shepherd, the release lead for R1, and Bala has kind of volunteered for this role. Bala, would you like to talk about this?
Yeah. Thanks, Arvind. I mean, we just spoke before this meeting. Like we said, I mean, a lot of the there are a few things that needs to be defined, but a lot of things we have defined, such as the whole GitHub thing, the issues and the boards, the CLAs, and the testing, things like that. Processes are defined, and as we move further, we will learn and do about the coordination between the SIGs and what's in, what's out to meet the deadlines. Because in my understanding, the date is fixed. If anything that can go is the scope, things like that. Probably this is more about coordination between the different groups that we have, and make sure we deliver the right scoped material on May 30th. So I'm looking forward to, as always we are doing, looking forward to working with different groups. And let's keep this rolling.
Oh,
Sounds
nice.
excellent.
You beat me to it, Bala. This was a very good role.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Sounds good. I think that's all I had to discuss. Maybe Vish, you wanted to share something, right?
Yeah. Let
Yeah,
me
please
share
go.
my screen. This is a preview, basically, I think, from the unit test perspective. So,
By the
have
way,
you stopped
Vish,
sharing?
no, I think Vish, you have to share. Maybe I ask one, Bala, are you going to make this, you're going to own the sprint meetings in this case? Or the scrums?
I would absolutely encourage that. That's why we appointed him to be a
Yeah.
contributor manager.
Yes, yes, I could do that. So one thing we need to decide is, so we have 3 subgroups in SIG 2 and 2 in SIG 3. We have defined, I think 5 sprints. So how many Scrum meetings are we gonna have? So that's one thing that we.
No, but see, okay, my proposal would be, Bella, I see at the moment I have 3 sub-project meetings, but I'm going to trim down to 1 rather soon, to be honest. So you can take 1 of mine if that slot suits you, of course. So I would think that the Scrum is for all the projects in one go, not one.
If that's the case, then it's okay. Then if it is one,
I don't know. I mean, that would be my proposal. Sorry.
that would be good in my view. I think it's and the other thing that we need to define is how often we have defined the sprints in a traditional Scrum. The meetings happens every day. Do we need to do that, or do we need to may meet like twice a week, once a week? I mean, I'm looking for some suggestions there.
Yeah, so my thinking, so I was planning, this is sort of what I was saying earlier, and we can combine them. I don't know. I was thinking twice a week for my sub project, and there's 2 things that we need out of meetings. One is a Scrum, which is, supposed to be quick, sort of a status check in traditionally 15 minutes. And then the other is a space for discussions and people to ask questions. Maybe we separate those things out. I mean, like I said, I also wanted to shorten my meetings if they were going to become more like scrums. We did this during I think many of you were involved during the workshop. I think 30-minute daily ones, but it was only for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough, I think, to do since this is not like 100% of anybody's time, as far as I know here, or maybe only a couple of us. Probably for most people to do that frequently. So I don't know, like the release meeting, which is about how is the overall delivery coming of the overall release, might be a different thing than the team Scrum meetings, which are smaller focused teams that most people don't give a crap about what they're talking about. So I think there's probably some.
And it can also happen on Slack too. We have done that in the past. The Scrum meetings, like I said, if you actually have a meeting, you will consume the time. But if you're on Slack and you're giving an update and you're saying what is blocked, that is more effective. And then you can actually go off to fix that blocker or discuss that blocker, you see? Anyway, that is my view.
That's an interesting idea. We could do the Scrums asynchronously, or even just say, hey, everybody on a daily or twice a week or something status, where are things? It's an idea.
Yeah, I think, that is something that we need to decide, like what do we need to really meet as a whole group, Or I also like your idea, John, like sub teams just meeting, then having a separate release cadence kind of meeting. So that is something we need to decide.
We do need a more master one to make sure that all the things are aligned, and especially closing into a release milestone. If we don't release something, we need to have a.
I would think this meeting could be used for that.
That's what I was
overall.
thinking. Yeah, 6.3 meeting should be used for that, the integration points of
30 minutes of it or whatever, and then like
Yeah.
the other team can do whatever they want, whatever makes sense for them.
Sure.
Okay, I got 7 minutes. Can I use up?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so this is something. Let me share my screen. This is something.
So
me and
Vish,
Bala-
just before you go, if you don't mind, 1 minute I'll take. So did we make a decision on that, or it's still not? I understood from the release meeting we'll discuss about the entire release, but did we talk about individual sub teams activities at all? Did we make a decision?
I think individual sub-teams should organize themselves, and it's up to the leader of that sub-team to decide how frequently and how often, well, not just the leader, but the rest of the people involved in it. I don't think, Bala, you need to run all those meetings. I think as a SIG release shepherd, you should be looking at the overall release and saying, hey, SIG this and SIG that, did you deliver what you're supposed to deliver? Or maybe since we don't have that many SIGs, sub project this, sub project that, did you land your commitments for this
Got it.
upcoming milestone sprint, the end of sprint kind of thing?
Okay, thank you so much. And that we will
You're
run as
also welcome to join all the meetings and then get the latest get the latest of everybody so you can track them better. But I guess that's
So basically, in this meeting, 30 minutes every day, we are gonna every week we're gonna make use for that synchronization.
correct.
Thanks. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Vish. Thanks.
Go ahead, Vish.
Okay, so this is something Bala and I, when we work on the OBN Kubernetes open source project, we had shared. So just wanted to bring this up. This is more a preview. I know 6 minutes won't be enough, but wanted to at least call out the different things. You know, this is something I'd shared with Arvind when I asked him his opinion, and I think he thought it was a good idea to share it here. You know, when we started off, because not everybody was a Go programmer back then, and in general, we were actually interchanging some of the things like integration and functional tests, which are end-to-end tests. You know, some of the things we covered were, you know, from the unit testing part of it, basically this is more focused on unit testing, but it goes a little more deep into at least give some information about the different types and what can be used for unit testing. You know, the agenda, we were like talking about unit integration, functional or TDD, test-driven development, and what testing in Go is, that where Go has got native, Go has got powerful native Go testing capabilities, and how there are some mock frameworks out there other than Ginkgo and G-Omega and references. Basically wanted to point out that we have unit testing, integration testing, and function testing, which is also as end-to-end testing. And then pointing out things like, you know, this is something I picked up from Twitter. You know, a unit test, if it talks to database or communicates across network or touches the file system, is not a unit test, basically, or if you need to do anything special. So things so that people understand that when you're saying that you're doing unit testing, you know exactly what you mean, right? It's basically that small pieces of code. It's basically at the function level. If you have a method that you have written, you write a test for it, basically. That's the key. And it helps prevent bugs, code design, code refactor, prevents regression. The reason I bring this up is most people are willing to go look at code and refactor because they know that there's a good set of unit tests out there that backs their changes. They know it's going to fail, and you are able to like confidently make some changes, run some tests, and know what you have broken. If you don't know what you have broken, you feel like, you know, you feel insecure about making code changes. That's the way I feel about it, or some people have felt about it. Anyway, this is just for fun. You know, I wanted to introduce something about how people make fun of unit tests and how some people are very actually saying that if there's no unit test, no code review. At least this is what used to happen in OpenStack. At least we had to have unit tests, and we also had to have, in some cases, functional tests as well. So, and integration testing is where we want to actually have, you know, if you have a database and you are actually testing that out, you are actually getting those two to work together. I know some of this is not new to you guys, but just wanted to reiterate so that, you know, folks have this information. And of course, integration tests are going to be slower than unit tests. And it is common to have fewer integration tests than unit tests. There's another great picture that shows about, you can have a unit test passing, you have 0 integration tests, and you'll be stuck in the situation where you can't open the door. And functional testing also, end-to-end testing is where I think where the functionality of the application, right? So until this point, for most of the things that you want to do on unit testing, you can actually do it on your local desktop environment by running them all inside of containers, basically. And when it comes to integration testing, you can actually still use things like Docker Compose and Podman Compose to do some of it. But when it comes to end-to-end testing, at least when we discussed, we still want the ability to run it locally, like at least on a VM, And usually the functional testing, you will end up having fewer, but they run very slowly and for common user interactions. So I think this is what, John, you were saying earlier about some of the, when we're discussing end-to-end tests. So use cases, user interactions. Just to point out things like test pyramid, if you were to look at it, your end-to-end test is going to be the slowest and your unit test is going to be run the fastest. And I'm sure most people have heard about test-driven development. I'm a big fan of it. Have I practiced it 100%? No, but I try to do it where possible. Where you write test first, make it fail, and then you go off write code to actually make it passed. And in general, testing in Go, this is where the powerful feature, you can use Go test and anything packages testing, and your file will be *_test.go, and you're able to go off and write and test that code. I will reserve some of these other things for a little more for a later one, since we are almost out of time. The key is that, when writing unit tests in Go, at least I found, coming from Python, when on OpenStack and moving to Go, I thought it was pretty cool in some of the native testing capabilities that you can reuse. I've also played with Ginkgo too. And for most of the time, things for writing unit tests, there are things like table-driven tests. I know how many of you are familiar, not sure. So it's a great one to use. So these are all things that, for writing the kept functions, where you write, I think it can be used in some places, is what I feel. I can bring this up again in a SIG2 meeting if we had to go through this again. And also the cool thing is it'll also allow for, it'll give you test coverage. What has been covered, it can give you HTML outputs that you can actually see. And then you can, like I said, table-driven tests, and you can actually generate marks for interfaces. It'll actually have it for you. And there are frameworks like Testify, if you are using for generating marks, that can help you do this. So just wanted to bring this up. And this is something that we actually implemented in the Go OVN Kubernetes community. So that's what I wanted to give a quick overview of it. So I'm thinking one other thing, there is something called as GoSec, Go Security, which also can actually look at your code to call out any, CVEs that it can, any vulnerabilities that are out there as well. So that is what I wanted to share at a high level. And if it's useful, I can actually go a little more deeper. Me and Bala can go a little more deeper on this the next time in one of the automation meetings or the SIG release meetings. Any questions?
Yes, from me. So this is a good overview. There's probably even more testing packages we can use. This is it's an important decision, right? Because the decision we make over how we do testing is going to follow into the future of Nefio. So I think we shouldn't do this lightly. Maybe even more than just going over a document and the pros and cons. It might be worth even writing a POC, getting hands-on experience with each one of these, so we could properly evaluate and see which would be best for us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was hoping in the, I am also signed up for the SIG workload and the SIG package specialization. And I was hoping that for any of the things that I write code there, at least I am able to demonstrate the native Go capabilities. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Go in general and its capabilities. I know it takes time when you come to a new language, right? In general. there are things from a unit test perspective, there are things from a integration test perspective that you can keep using different frameworks, and they're all great. I mean, everybody has their own, choice. I mean, own favorites. Basically, the idea is somebody coming new to Go, they want to be able to use the idea is to see how they can use the thing provided by the native language, how they can leverage that and make it easy for them to use it. That is one of the goals. Make it easy for folks to come in and start contributing code, understand, and be able to maintain it.
Right. Well, it's a very big topic. And we're out of time, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You and I can chat later, and I can
Well,
get you
we can. I kind of feel like this whole team really needs to chat about it, right?
Yes.
Yes. I have a lot of thoughts. I have some experience with some of the frameworks you mentioned. All of them have a learning curve, right? Yeah. It's ease of use in Go, but Ginkgo, which is used a lot, it has a complete DSL of its own to learn, right? So there's a challenge here. Beyond having developers learn Go, they're going to have to learn the specific testing framework that we end up choosing, right? So that would be another pro and con to think about over the learning curve. So there's just so much to consider here, right? But again, this is a very important topic. So I would say let's take our time with it and not make any quick decision, because it'll be very, very hard to change our mind later, right? And rewrite all our test code.
Correct. I agree. That's why I think anything native to the language should be the first choice. Yeah. Oh, I think most people are dropping out. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. We're out of time.
Yep.
Okay.
That brings us out of time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for
Bye.
presenting.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.